Hey, this is Reverend Sean again with the Center Path, and I've been doing a kind of like a how to start in Buddhism, how to start in meditation, and I'll tell you a couple stories about how I started with meditation. My initial starting with meditation, I tell this story pretty often because it helps me show people that you don't have to start anything really dramatically amazing or anything. I was in university at the time, and I was noticing that I was having problems with anything that looked mushy. So anything like mashed potatoes, or which I loved, and scrambled eggs, or any pudding, anything like that. Anything that was mushy would make me really nauseous, and I couldn't figure out why. And I wasn't sleeping, yada yada yada. And I ended up going to the health center on campus, and they said, "Hey, you have an ulcer." So I was like, "Oh man, I have a peptic ulcer. This is a typical thing from stress." And they said, "Okay, here's what you do. You're going to take this medicine, and you're going to go see this person in an office." I said, "Oh man," I ended up having to go to a therapist. So they gave me a little business card, and I started with the medicines, and the medicines were basically like Xanax or something like that to stop the acid in my stomach. I ended up only taking that for about a week because I started getting better pretty close to that. I went and had this little card, and it said go to building, I can't remember, building 3, room 402 or whatever it was. And I went looking around this place, and looking back, I'm terrible with directions, it turns out. But I did finally find that place. I found the office, I knock on the door, and there was a professor in there, and he opens the door, and he was like really, like I was annoying him. He's like, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I just showed him the card." He says, "They gave me this card for you." And he took the card, put it in his pocket, and closed the door. And I was like, "Okay, that should I leave, or what should I do?" And I hear him rummage around there, and he comes back out. And I remember him so vividly. And he had a pair of glasses here and a pair of glasses here. And he had that corduroy suit coat on with the leather patches like professors do. This is probably around 1986 or 7, probably around 87, I guess. And he goes, he opens the door, and he goes, "Here, I want you to listen to this and come back next week." And I'm like, "Tuesday?" And he goes, "Sure." And he closes the door. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, so I guess like today's Tuesday and it's 10 o'clock, so I'll come back next week, I guess." So I took this, it was a cassette tape. And I remember, I want to say it was a 60-minute tape or 90-minute tape. I think it was a 90-minute tape, so I had 45 minutes on each side. I was pretty excited because I was like, dang, I got a free tape. I can tape over the top of it if I don't like it, right? So I went back to my room. I put it in my little boom box, which we had in those days, and I put it in, and it was a recording by a Dr. Emmett Miller with music by a guy named Stephen Halpern. You can still find them here online. I'll try and put a link to their channels because it's really Ichiban number one. I told them at one point, if I got a nickel for every time I told somebody about these recordings, I'd be a millionaire. So I'm hoping they are, because it did change everything. That was my very first time listening to this one recording called A Trip to the Beach. It's spectacular. I'll try and put a link to it somewhere down in my comments or something, because it's perfect. I still use it. I teach at a psychiatric hospital. I teach adolescents, and I teach adult acute care and even recovery care, as well as detox. So I teach in all of those groups, and I use this recording a lot. Or I reference the recording, or I tell them to go get the recording, or whatever it is. And I'd like to think that I'm one of the reasons there's a lot of listening to that recording, because I tell so many people about it. But that started me on this whole path of wanting to get into meditations. And that was the beginning. After a couple of years, I lost that tape. I have no idea where it went. I did try to go back to the classroom, but like I said, I have really terrible sense of direction, and I didn't remember what building it was, and I didn't remember how to get there. And there was like 3 or 4 buildings that were exactly the same to me, and I wandered around those and just couldn't figure it out. So I never saw that professor again. I stole his tape, and I used it as a lot. I mean, at first I would fall asleep. I'd fall the heck asleep right away. I'd sleep for 3 or 4 hours, but that meant I needed rest, you know what I mean? And so after a few times I'd wake up at the end when it says to wake up at the end, thinking, "Wait, I did it! Yay me! I succeeded at meditation." And then later on, I would get into that twilight stage where I could actually hear what was going on, and feel like I was restful and sleeping, but not asleep, if you know what I mean. It's a really interesting place to be. To this day, and this is 30-something years later, almost 40 years. 40 years later, I'm still listening to that recording, and I get something different about it every time. For example, I was just listening to it the other day, and I noticed how much of the wave sounds there were in the background. And I never noticed that before. I just forgot about it. There's different. It's layered. It's rich. It's deep. It's really good. His voice is really good. That's an important thing. But anyway, that's how I started. That was my very first meditation task that I did back in the day. Was the a trip to the beach. Now there's other ones on there as well. You can do. It's what is it? Autogenic relaxation and tension relaxation, stuff like that. Anyway, this is Reverend Sean of the Center Path. Just a little reminiscing, and so you can know a little bit more about me and my past. Go right down here for subscribing if you haven't done so already, and then go over to that side of the page for the next video, or the next available video for you or whatever. And if you have a question or a story, tell me. I want to know how you started too. It's pretty cool to know how people started, especially if it started to do some changes to them. Anyway, take care of yourself. Good luck, and we'll see you later. Bye.